sound. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third workshop of the series of Podcasting 101. This is Marketing and Publicity, Get Your Voice Heard. And basically today we're going to talk about a few basic marketing strategies with your podcast, as well as some graphic design and how to do it. And one of the easiest programs I find to use for that is Canva. So we'll take a look at how to work through that. But just to start out with, I guess for some general marketing ideas, like you always want to keep in mind the type of audience that you're reaching out to. With podcasting, I say that it probably depends on your topic more specifically. For example, in the fall last semester, when I was co-hosting Quarantine at Harvard with 3 other members here at HCPN, I think our main audience was kind of the Harvard community, and then maybe a few people outside of that as well. And so we were really looking towards like younger students, college students. And so in graphic design, like we were looking for something that isn't like super formal. It's kind of fun to work with. But then I think that there's also other scenarios where like maybe you're looking for something that's more formal, or for example, there was the one group of people that we were talking to earlier, and they were looking kind of for a more cartoonish style, and that can be really just like, it just depends on what your purpose is and what you're thinking about with your podcast. But all of that can be done in Canva specifically, I guess, since that's the program I'll be showing you guys today. And so to get started, I think I'm going to do a little tutorial on how to work through it, and I'm going to share my screen now. So yes, okay, so this is Canva. This is not the homepage, but I'm not sure if this is gonna work. Okay, yeah, so it auto-logs me into Canva because I'm already signed in, but it's really simple. You can create a new account through your Google account. Sorry, ignore that. You can create a new account through your Google account, and it'll just be a super easy sign in, and then it'll remember your login for each time. And as you can see here, there's a lot of options for things that you can design. You can do a presentation, Instagram post, invitation poster, etc. Usually what I choose to do is I'll go to create a design, and most of the time we'll be posting on Instagram, so I'll go ahead and do that. There's other little parts to Canva that I think are pretty neat though, so I'm going to go through each one of those before we go into actually making something. You can see here you have your brand kit. And let's just say you have a specific color scheme that you really like. You can add a palette. I've already added one here for the HCPN, but you can add a new palette and you can put in your different colors with your different color codes, or you can just like randomly choose one on the scale if you haven't decided on one yet. And then these are also ways that you can choose different fonts if you want to be consistent with your designs. Personally, for me, I like to change it up every once in a while, so I don't have a set font here, but again, that is definitely an option. And then you can also insert logos here, but there's also an upload function in the program itself that kind of saves for each graphic, and so I just use that most of the time. But again, all of this is here for you if you want to use it or if you choose to use it. And down here, you can also see that there's a tab section here. When you first create your account, it'll say create your team or add your team. So you can actually add a team. So here it is, one for HCPN. And what you can do is you can come here and you can add members. And this way, if you have other people that you want to work with and you're not sharing a single email link, you can add their email addresses here, and it'll all allow you to collaborate on this one set page. And that way you can all work on designs together. You can also create groups. As you can see here, you can create a group, you can add a group name, and then same thing, you're adding members and all that lovely stuff. But super convenient, again, if you're working, for example, with multiple co-hosts and you all want to do some work on graphic design together. But going back to actually making your design. So as I said, normally I'll come here and choose Instagram posts. Sometimes I like to do Instagram story or animated social media, but we'll just go with this one for now. And you can see it starts you out with a blank page. What I like to do is I normally like to surf through these templates sometimes and find something that works out. For example, if I'm doing an episode, I might search a podcast, and you can see there's all these little nice templates for you. Most of them are pro, but anyone without it, for example, I think this one doesn't have it, it's free, you can use that. Another thing that I like to do is sometimes even if you don't use one of these, you can kind of base your inspiration off of it. So like, for example, I might want to try adding something like, even though this is pro and I can't use it, I might want to try adding like, you know, a picture in the corner and adding the little audio wave, and maybe my title goes there. So you can very easily like replicate a design if you want it, but you can't use it. But for this specifically, because I actually did not make a graphic design for this workshop series, I'm going to run through my thought process and how I would do that with you guys. And again, this is a very short process, I would say. Usually it takes 5 to 10 minutes, and that's why I think Canva is really convenient, because you can get a graphic design done in a really quick amount of time if you're like time crunched or really stressed out about something else. But I might go, let's see, what would I want to do? Let's just go with, okay, let's just say I want to use this as my base, right? So first things first, this is advertising for a podcast workshop, so I would probably change the picture, and you can go here by using photos. This is a bunch of Canva's like offered photos that they have in stock, but you can also go to your own uploads if you want and upload your own photos here, and that way you can drop anything that you want to use. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to go here and I'm going to search up, let's say, podcasts. And you can see again, same thing where you have a few pro photos and you have the few free ones. But I just kind of scroll down and let's just say I want to use this one. So for here, you can see you can just click on it and backspace and it deletes it for you. And you can resize this to replace the position. So I might do that and I might move it over, and then you can crop it and it'll quickly just, and done. So you can see I replaced the photo from that, super easy. And then as for the background color, so you'll just click on the background, any of the space, and you can see this color palette up here. This is where the brand template comes in, as we were looking at before. For this one, we'll just use the darker color, which is the crimson red, and you can see that changes automatically. And then obviously we'd be changing the words as well. So normally at the top, I choose to add like whatever organization you're working with, or I guess it would be the name of your podcast. For here, I would do Harvard College Podcast Network. And that would be kind of like my introduction, like when someone looks at this, they're saying like, oh, this is what it belongs to. But again, if you're doing it for your podcast specifically, you might choose like, for example, Dear Harvard or Humans of Harvard or That Medic Podcast, whatever fits. But yeah, and then coming here, usually what's in the largest font, it makes sense to be the title. So I would do probably marketing and Publicity. I can't type today. I'm so sorry, guys. You can see the spacing is a little off, so I might just come in here and decrease the size a little bit so that the G actually stays with the whole word marketing. And you can see that's all fixed and all better. And then usually at the bottom is where I put all the information. So for example, it would be like 8 p.m. Eastern. Oh, actually, I would probably add the date first. So I don't even know what day today is. May 3rd. Thank you. May 3rd, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then I would follow up with the link, which is tiny.cc/hcpn. And that looks a little small. So you can see right now, the way it have it, it's all grouped. So if I move it all, it'll move everything together. So I don't want that. So oops, did not mean to do that. Okay, also redo buttons here, undo buttons there, just in case you messed up. But so what I'll do is I'll right click here and you can ungroup it, and that way you can move everything freely. But I just want to make this a little bit larger, so I might do that and then reorganize it. You can also see, I'm not sure if you can tell, but there's the pink lines that help you with all of the orientation. Super helpful. Just moving this down a little bit as well. And I also am going to try to match it with the colors. So it'll show you your document colors, which allow you to match with this. And so when I'm coming here, I can just easily go up and like that. And I'm realizing that it's probably not the color itself, which is, there we go. Okay, so now you can see that they're both matching with each other pretty well. And lastly, I feel like this is not the best color to match against an already red background, so I might change it to that. And there you can see it kind of pops out a bit. But see, in how long did that take? Maybe 5 minutes or so, you already have a graphic that looks kind of decently well and works for your purposes. And you can just go here to download and you can choose like PNG, or if you want to add some extra fun, you can click animate and you can do these little animations with it. Lots of fun stuff that you can always try out. But and then you would just download as an MP4 instead. But that is just a basic run through tutorial with Canva. Again, like if you wanted to do it for a podcast, you might just use a different template and use one of those instead. But yeah, then going back, I think that's about it with just working Canva. After I finish talking, I might have you guys try making your own little graphic design in just under 5 minutes. We can spur a random prompt and kind of work with that. But before I do that, I just want to kind of make some quick wrapping up comment about Canva and how to use it. Again, I think that it's pretty easy to use. I forgot to touch on one thing actually, which I will go back here to do. There's a lot of elements that you can use when you're creating your design that are super helpful. And like, for example, if I wanted to make this like pop out, I could do that. It doesn't really fit with the specific graphic itself, but there's so many things that you can use from here that also work. In one of the other organizations that I'm in, I often find myself here at Elements kind of creating my own templates from scratch sometimes, because again, templates are great, but they don't always fit the vibe you're going for. So if you ever want to kind of branch out of that, there's a lot of elements here for you to use and kind of just work with, and that's super helpful. But anyways, so getting on to it, I'm thinking that we could maybe spend like 5 minutes trying to just kind of explore Canva, use for ourselves. And I'm going to, oh shoot, I can't do, okay. Random prompt generator. So I'm going to pull up a random prompt, but if you have a podcast that you want to create a graphic for, you can also use that as your random prompt. But this is just a random thing. I'm not sure how well this is going to work, but okay, we'll just, okay, we'll just pretend it's about sports, right? Okay, I'm gonna take, okay, NFL. Okay, prompt. You're creating a graphic for the Super Bowl. So if everybody could quickly just go into Canva, and I think we're gonna just spend maybe 5 minutes or so until like 8:23 or 24, just kind of exploring. And then I'm thinking that at 8:25, we can all come back together and kind of share what we came up with. Again, no pressure, super low stakes. If you don't get done, perfectly fine. I just want this to be an opportunity for you guys to kind of explore the program and see what it's like. And also ask any questions if you have any trouble working with it. So I'm going to temporarily stop the share. If you want, you can also turn off your video while you're working. Does not matter to me. But I'm going to also stop the recording as we do this, just so there's not like a random 5-minute blank space. Pause, but I stop. Okay, yeah. So in regards to doing podcast cover art, I actually like to use a program outside of Canva. That's just my personal preference. But again, Canva is a really good place that you can use as well if you want to. Again, I would say that using the elements is probably your best bet with coming up with a design for your podcast cover. But for me personally, I like to hand draw a lot of things. And so I'm actually going to share my iPad screen with you guys because I have this lovely plugin. It's required to share iPad screen. Okay, sorry, give me like 2 seconds. It's downloading. Okay, let's try this again. Screen mirroring. I apologize, I've only done this like 1. Can you guys see that okay? I hope you guys can. Okay. Yeah, so I have this lovely app right here called Iris Paint X. And it's completely free, at least last time I checked. And so I like to go in here. You can see this is what David was talking about. This was a cover art design for one of our upcoming podcasts, which is called Epiphany. But just to kind of go over basics in general, normally I will click the plus sign, and since podcast covers are square, this quality, I just put it at the max because yeah. um, but you'll come into this link here, link here. Actually, reusing the NFL design. We'll pretend we're creating like a podcast that's football related, I guess. And so usually you want to come up with like a color scheme generally that you want to use. Um, there's a lot of colors you can see here, but you can choose anything that you want. Like for example, I was working with something that was green. So you can see I have all these variations of green. And then these are the two colors for one of my other organizations. And then I think this is the red for HCPN. But again, lovely, lovely stuff. But there's a lot of stuff that you can play around with here. It's one of your basic general graphic design tools, though. You can use, your bucket tool. If I wanted to do something a little more special, there's all these brushes. That being said, with these brushes, I think you have to watch like a short ad video if you want to unlock every single one. But they're, for the basic ones, like they have all these like different airbrush tools. So if you want to get like a lighter feathery look, you can do something like that. Like, wow, that's so cool. And there's also another key part, I think, when it comes to when you're creating your design, you want to have a lot of different layers so that you can have like a background layer and your like a font layer, I guess, and all the other things that you want to do. And that way you can move things around freely without having to worry about like erasing as you might do like in a more physical piece of art. So for example, like if I wanted that red background, I would create a new layer, and you can see here, now I have this new thing. If I just wanted to, we'll just do a random smiley face, right? Let's say, oh no, this smiley face isn't centered. You can just kind of move it around like this. You make it bigger, you make it smaller, you put it in the corner. But again, lots of things that you can do. With generally though, that wasn't, I feel like this kind of comes down to having a little bit of experience with working digitally with art. But again, there's a lot of, but it's a little more difficult than Canva because again, you're working more from scratch, you're working more with your own brush strokes and everything, but there are a lot of opportunities there for what you want to do. And then going back to here, with Epiphany specifically, I don't know, I do not have it. Okay, well, I'm gonna show you this in general. And so you can see I have like an okay, well, I have this overlay layer. Again, oh, that's actually another interesting factor. You can change your layers so that you can have like darken, multiply, color burn, overlay, vivid light, and you can get all these different effects that can make it look like it's, in this case, I wanted something that looked like it glowed. So I like to use color dodge or overlay for that. But you can see I have my two layers. This is my background, this is my foreground. This is obviously not what I started with at my background. This is like a merging of multiple different layers together. Unfortunately, I can't show you each separate one since I can't go back with it anymore. But I have this, and there's also, when I'm creating a cover art design like this, I also like to use multiple different applications, I would say. So for example, I'll do the main design here on my iPad screen. And then all these different light effects, though, I went into a different photo editor called Superimpose X, I believe. It used to be free, but I think it costs money now. I'm sure there are many great other alternatives as well. Canva could be one of your alternatives. I know that there's a lot of effects that give off a similar like sparkly thing. And so, but I would insert my design into that program. And then you can add all these specific design effects that kind of enhance it. And then sometimes I'll reinsert it back into this Ibis Paint X, as you can see I did here, and then just do it with retouch-ups. But I feel like generally it depends on what you're looking for with your cover art design, because like in some cases you want something that looks a little bit more like, for example, like here, I didn't think a cartoon or like what your typical graphic design was really what I was looking for, so I decided to hand draw it. But again, in other cases, it might be more beneficial to go into Canva because it's easier, and again, the elements are great tools to use. But really, just whatever your purposes are, these are two programs that I think are completely free and relatively intuitive to use. And so, yeah.
Melissa, I have my Super Bowl. thing already.
You do? Okay. So
do.
would you like to show us your Super Bowl design?
Of course, I'd be delighted. David, I hope it stacks up against yours.
Wow. That is amazing, Summer. I love it.
It was a great template, let me just tell you that.
It's beautiful, beautiful.
I don't know, that be there, be square thing has a surprisingly threatening aura, especially with the Super Bowl ad.
Don't want to be square. David, did you create one?
Yeah, I'm still working on mine, but
Okay,
I
okay.
really appreciate your creation. Melissa, I was wondering if you would like to talk about like the strategies in general using like Harvard related platforms for pubbing your podcast.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously graphic design aside, there's a lot of different marketing strategies that you can implement when it comes to advertising. I think one of the greatest platforms that you can use is the Harvard College Instagram, actually. Going through a few posts back, I believe there was one podcast group who actually reached out. They have a Google form in their bio that you can sign up with, or maybe it's a link tree, I'm not sure. But they do have a link that you can sign up and request a takeover, and they can either do a post for you, or if you're gonna do a whole story where you like talk about your podcast and give people a short intro, that's a great opportunity. But that's one of the places that where you can reach out to with the Harvard community, especially just to kind of promote your podcast. And then, of course, there's also other methods. I think one of the most effective ways that you can really reach out to people is kind of just like going to other people's like social media platforms. I know that Dear Harvard, the podcast, has their own Instagram platform. And I'm not saying that you should be pubbing through another person's platform, because that is definitely a no. But like if you just naturally like hype up other people's episodes, like, wow, this is a really great episode, or wow, this looks super awesome. What you can do from there is like people will be like, oh, this is another podcast commenting on this one. Like if they, maybe I want to check that one out too. And so people will naturally like, you know, scroll through comments and like click on different profiles, and maybe they'll wind up at yours. I found that in my experiences with a lot of things, it's a great way to get publicity. It's just like, you know, just like hyping up other people's things, and then naturally like people typically tend to come in like a your profile as well. But that's the thing. I guess for podcast wise, it's great setting up social media for yourself. I did not go into that before diving into Instagram, but setting up social media is great because again, it's a place where you can put all these graphics for yourselves. Here at HCPN, we do have our own Instagram. It's hcp.network. Yes. And we post all of our different graphics for our different podcasts on there. And for example, if you were to make a graphic for your podcast, I cannot speak today, a graphic for your podcast, we would post it on our Instagram as well and pub it there. And if you have an Instagram account to go along with it, we would tag it along. But again, I think that just kind of reaching out to other podcasts or looking at their pages and kind of hyping them up, that's a great way to not only support yourself, but also support other people. And then another thing that you can do is like reaching out to people through emails, or like directly just speaking to people in person that are your friends, like saying like, hey, like I created this podcast, you want to check it out. I know for me, like I harassed my family about checking out Quarantine at Harvard back in the fall. Like I sent them links. I was like, hey, look at this, a new episode's out. I know that for Dear Harvard, we use the class of 2024 group me a lot to get out news of new episodes, or for them, they require submissions for their quote unquote letters, I guess. And so they'll be reaching out to the class of 2024 group chat and say like, hey, like we just released a new episode of Dear Harvard. You should submit your submissions to tinyurl.com/Dear Harvard and submit your own confessions. And that's another great way we can reach out to people, just kind of like talking to people just like one-on-one or directly as a group. It's a great way to like help get publicity for your podcast and episodes. But with HCPN specifically in terms of marketing, I think our biggest thing is like we have our own website and we like to promote and feature all the podcasts on there. And so it'll usually link to like the Anchor website for your podcast, and it's like a little hub for all the different promotions and descriptions. And yeah, but generally with marketing, I feel like your goal is to reach out to as many people as possible and find out as many ways you can do that. And again, social media and talking to people are probably your two best bets with that. So,
yeah. if I could add something, podcasts in general have a unique rate of being very easily passed on through word of mouth. Like, oh, you should check this podcast out. Oh, it's like it's honestly the probably the best way to to spread, I guess, word of it reliably. But I would like to say though that, Melissa, we do have a system in place to um, where people can like submit their graphics for us to post on our Instagram. Um, sorry, did we mention that or?
I don't think we have. That is a good point though. I will find a specific Google form link, but we do have a Google form set in place where you can submit your graphics to us and we will actually have them automatically posted on the Instagram within at least a day, I would say. I'm finding the form link for that as well. But generally the form asks for your name, your podcast, the graphic that you want, if you have a graphic. If not, sometimes we'll just take your podcast cover art and use that as a way to like tag on the episode name and then just post that on Instagram. But yes, we do have that set in place as an easy way that you can submit your things to us and we'll get it shared. So I do have the link now. Yes, okay, so that is our form link. But generally, again, like if you submit it to us with like a caption or a graph or your posts in general, I guess, we'll have that up in the next day. And yeah. Let's see.
Sounds good. We can maybe field any questions at this point, but otherwise I think we covered it.
David, did you finish your Super Bowl design?
No, I'm sorry, I was just gonna finish it. But, yeah, no, I honestly, yeah, no, I did not get to it, unfortunately, but
I
oh, what
think
is
that's
it?
a good question for David.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, Amelia. And honestly, hey, so okay, sorry, I gotta relax. Okay, so the Epiphany podcast is a project that HCPN is conducting. Um, it's it was inspired by SNL in the forms of structure where every week there's a guest host, or surrounded by a supporting cast that can help them bring their skit ideas to life. And the idea behind this is that, I'm sure in our day-to-day interactions at Harvard, there's plenty of moments where you just learn something really cool, right? Whether it's in class or talking to your friends or attending this random webinar that you saw in your email, right? There's just, I think, honestly, there's just a lot of moments where epiphanies happen, but frankly, they just kind of happen and then just vaporize and dissipate into the air. And what I thought would be really cool is just have a place where people be like, hey, if I learned something really cool today, I really want to share it and have this podcast there to present that. So this is what this is. It's the Harvard Epiphanies, where we invite Harvard students to come on and just share briefly, however you like. I mean, we have a time frame of between 2 and 15 minutes where you just script out or just even just like, improv it out an epiphany. So for instance, like Simmer, who is just here, he's going to be our first episode. He wants to talk about, right, like this notion of junk DNA and whether or not it's truly junk or not. And like, calling it, are we ignoring a lot of the functionalities of DNA that does encode, specifically. For me, I recently learned about the activist's dilemma and how, sorry, just blank there, and how, being a very progressive and, sometimes violent movement can actually detract your own image. But without that, you can't really, upset the status quo. So there's actually a large body of psychological literature talking about that and whether there's a balance of, winning over people's hearts and minds and not scaring them away. So I'm sure, and Amelia, I'm sure you too have throughout the semester experienced a lot of epiphanies. And honestly, yeah, it's very cool. And I would like to formally invite you, no pressure, to join, to host an Epiphany podcast anytime. It's a great way to like learn how to make a podcast. Oh my god! Oh, that was so cool. Yeah. So the great thing about this is that it's not only for the purposes of sharing wonderful knowledge to beyond the Harvard walls, right? but also it's a great chance for people. Oh, no worries. Yeah, you're good. You're good. But also it's a great place for people to experiment actually making a podcast, because we're going to ask you to make your podcast, but we'll provide all the music you need. We'll obviously support you in the production and scripting and all that, but you get to make a podcast without committing to a podcast, so to speak. So you get to have fun with it once, go through the motions without needing to commit to a whole new podcast idea, so to speak. So um yeah, yeah, that's really it. And thank you. I'm really excited about this notion. We probably won't start this until like the summer, if not the fall. But yeah, I'm so glad that you like to try one out. And again, it can be as short as a few sentences, where it's just like there's this really cool quote that I learned. That's what I thought too. I was thinking I was going to share a quote that I learned about well, I forgot the name of the person, but he said like our doubt is our passion. But anyways, um it could be as short as that, or it could be a lengthy conversation about something you learned in class that needs some explanation and all that. So um yeah, yeah, for sure. And we'll stay in contact. Emilia, are you on the Slack? Yes. Okay, great. So I'll stay in contact with you in regards to the epiphany, and depending on when you'd like to get started. Obviously right now it's finals week, so it's a bit rough, but um yeah, I'd be super excited to hear what you have. So um yeah. Any other questions? Oh, when is the next pod storming? That's a good question. That's to be determined, because obviously it's reading period, but I would honestly recommend scheduling a follow-up meeting, like a one-on-one follow-up meeting. I can send that link to you too. It's just easier in general because for one, it's one-on-one, so but it's also like you can pick the time too, so you don't have to um there you go. Yeah, you can just find a time, half an hour, and then we'll meet, we'll talk, vibe, share podcast recommendations, but mainly talking about your podcast idea, I'm sure. So um yeah, is that okay, by the way? I know, I guess the pause filming is nice as well, given that it's drop in, but I would honestly recommend doing this because we haven't. Okay, perfect. Cool. Well, that's it. Thank you, Melissa. Again, this is really cool. Um, sorry, I should have. I'll do this afterwards, and I'll send you. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's the only question. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Amelia.
Awesome.
Um, oh
Thanks
yeah,
so
we
much
should
for
probably
coming, Amelia. Oh.